The first time I saw her, she was sitting perfectly still in the containment chair, as if she had decided that dignity was the one possession they couldn't confiscate. The room hummed with layered security fields, blue grids folding over one another like translucent spiderwebs, and the air carried the faint metallic sting of sterilized oxygen. According to the file, she was a high-risk extraterrestrial combatant. According to my eyes, she looked like an ordinary woman who had wandered into the wrong government building, except for the ears. They were long, elegantly tapered, rising through her dark hair and curving back in a way that made the word alien unnecessary. "Prisoner designation 7A, I recited, because protocol likes to hear itself spoken aloud. She tilted her head slightly. "Is that my name today?" Her voice wasn't monstrous. It wasn't echoing with cosmic reverb. It sounded tired. I checked the translation band at my collar, working fine, unfortunately. "You don't get names here," I said. "Then I will borrow yours," she replied calmly. "It seems more efficient." I ignored that. Efficiency wasn't in the handbook. The chains around her wrists weren't ordinary restraints. They were gravitic binders calibrated to counter unknown muscle density. A faint distortion shimmered around them, like heat over asphalt. Every few seconds the system recalibrated with a soft click, as if politely reminding her not to try anything heroic. "I'm required to ask if you intend to attempt escape," I said, reading from the tablet. She looked down at the restraints, then back at me. "With what?" "Interpretive dance." I choked before I could stop myself. That was the first crack in my professionalism. The facility was buried beneath 30 meters of reinforced alloy and paranoia. Autonomous drones floated along the corridor outside, their lenses dilating whenever my heart rate spiked. Mine did that a lot around her. Not because she growled or lunged, she didn't, but because she watched everything. Not like a predator, like a strategist. I placed the nutrient tray on the magnetic shelf. She examined it with careful suspicion. "Is this meant for consumption or interrogation?" "It's lunch." She poked the gray protein cube. "It resembles building material." "It tastes like it too." That earned the smallest curve of amusement at her lips. It surprised me how normal that expression looked on someone classified as an interstellar threat. Over the next few shifts, I noticed things the reports hadn't mentioned. She always thanked me. She asked questions about Earth that didn't sound tactical. She misinterpreted one automated announcement and stood up straight as if being knighted when the loudspeaker was only reminding staff about recycling protocols. When I told her that, she sat down slowly and muttered something in her language that the translator rendered as, "I shall conquer the bins another day." The interrogations were different. When the officers came in, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Their questions were sharp, calculated. They activated the neural resonance field once. I wasn't supposed to react. I did anyway. Afterward, when they left, she was breathing unevenly, her long ears trembling faintly against her hair. "You could cooperate," I said quietly, hating how hollow it sounded. "I am cooperating," she replied, eyes still closed. "I am not breaking your walls." That answer lodged somewhere uncomfortable inside me. On my 8th night shift, the facility's quantum grid flickered. A minor fluctuation, the system said, nothing to report. I stood outside her cell longer than necessary, watching the faint blue light ripple over her restraints. "You look troubled, borrowed name," she said softly. "You look chained," I replied. She studied me for a long moment. "Yes," she agreed. "That too." The official handbook insisted that night shifts were statistically safer, because hostile incidents decreased by 63% after midnight. The handbook did not mention that loneliness increased by roughly 1,000%, nor that the coffee in sublevel C achieved a viscosity normally associated with industrial adhesives. I was contemplating whether the mug could legally be classified as a construction material when the proximity alarm chimed. Not a blaring emergency, just a polite electronic cough that meant something unusual had decided to happen. The surveillance wall lit up with feeds from Corridor Delta, Storage Annex, and most concerning, External Maintenance Hatch 3, which nobody used because it opened directly into a wind-scoured service trench, and beyond that, several kilometers of nothing. On the grainy infrared view, a figure stood at the hatch, perfectly still despite the gale tugging at their coat. For a hopeful half-second, I assumed it was a malfunctioning sensor interpreting a mop as a person. Then the figure lifted a hand and knocked. People did not knock on high-security maintenance hatches. I keyed the intercom. "This entrance is restricted. Please relocate to a designated." I am at the correct door, a calm voice interrupted. The translator lagged a fraction behind the original speech, producing a faint echo of alien syllables like wind through glass. You left it unlocked. My stomach dropped. Hatch 3 had no external handle. Protocol required I summon a response team. Protocol also required I not investigate alone, not engage unknown entities, and ideally not exist in any situation remotely like this one. Unfortunately, curiosity beat protocol by a comfortable margin. I routed a drone to the trench. The feed sharpened. She looked almost human. Tall, composed, hair whipping around her face in the storm. The only impossible detail was the ears, long, elegant, unmistakable even in thermal imaging. They angled slightly forward, as if listening to something the wind couldn't drown out. You cannot be here, I said, because it was the least imaginative sentence available. Yet here continues to be where I am, she replied. The drone extended a scanning beam. Warning icons bloomed across my console. Unknown alloys, energy signatures that didn't correspond to any catalog technology, biological readings well within human range. Except for a few annotations, the system translated as politely alarming. State your purpose, I managed. She considered that, glancing at the drone as if it were a mildly intrusive insect. I was told humans appreciate directness. I am looking for the one who showed me kindness. That could be, statistically, many people. Her expression softened with what might have been amusement. No, it is a very small number. The wind howled. Ice crystals rattled against the hatch like thrown gravel. She didn't flinch. You should open the door, she added. Your storm is attempting assassination. I hesitated. Somewhere in the building, automated systems were already escalating the anomaly from unusual to deeply concerning. If I didn't act soon, the situation would resolve itself with armed personnel and considerably less conversation. Step back from the hatch, I said. She did not move. Instead, she placed her palm against the frozen metal. Frost retreated from her skin in a perfect circle, melting outward in delicate branching patterns. The temperature readout spiked, then stabilized. I would prefer not to break it, she said gently. Repairs seem expensive. Against all training, all common sense, and several loud internal objections, I triggered the manual override. The hatch seals disengaged with a heavy mechanical sigh. Cold air punched into the corridor hard enough to sting my eyes. She stepped inside as if entering a quiet library instead of a classified military facility. Up close, the not-quite-human details were clearer. The faint luminescence beneath her skin, the precise way her long ears angled toward every sound, cataloging it. She looked around, then back at me through the drone's camera. Hello, she said politely. I believe you have something that belongs to me. I glanced at the empty corridor, then at the alert counter climbing toward catastrophe. I have a feeling, I said slowly, this is going to be a paperwork nightmare. Her smile widened just enough to be dangerous. You have no idea. My apartment door had 3 locks, a biometric scanner, and a polite sticker from the landlord reminding residents that discharging plasma weaponry in the hallway would result in a cleaning fee. At 2 in the morning, all of that security meant absolutely nothing when the doorbell rang. Not pounded, not hacked. Rang, cheerfully. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, conducting the kind of rapid internal debate usually reserved for bomb disposal. If I ignored it, whoever it was might go away. If it was the authorities, ignoring it would only make them knock louder, possibly with explosives. If it was a neighbor, they would eventually remember I wasn't a pharmacist and leave. The bell rang again, patient and oddly polite. Coming, I croaked, because my survival instincts apparently reported to my manners. The hallway camera activated on the wall display. A woman stood outside, perfectly composed, hands folded in front of her like someone waiting to be invited to a dinner party. She looked human at first glance. Tall, calm, wearing armor that shimmered like liquid moonlight. But then she shifted slightly, and the overhead light traced the long, elegant arc of her ears through her dark hair. I considered several options, fainting, screaming, pretending I had moved to another planet. Instead, I opened the door a cautious 10 centimeters. Yes. She inclined her head with formal grace. Hello, I apologize for the hour. Your planet rotates inconveniently. That's been a complaint before, I said automatically, then realized I was making small talk with an extraterrestrial at my doorstep. She studied my face with focused intensity, as if matching it to a memory. Something like relief softened her expression. Yes, it is you. Fantastic, I said weakly, always reassuring to hear. Only then did I notice what she was holding, a potted plant, or rather the remains of one. Soil spilled through her fingers, the leaves looked traumatized. I was informed humans bring gifts when visiting a residence, she said. I acquired this from a public structure. It resisted, but not effectively. You stole a fern. I liberated it. Of course you did. I opened the door a little wider, mostly because neighbors were beginning to peek through their own security viewers, and explaining an armored alien in the corridor would be difficult to phrase casually. She stepped inside with quiet precision, scanning the room in a single smooth motion. Not paranoia assessment. Furniture, windows, exits, me, especially me. You live compactly, she observed. It's called rent. She touched the back of a chair with cautious curiosity, as if expecting it to attack. May I sit? Chairs are generally pro-sitting. She lowered herself carefully, armor whispering like sliding glass. The long ears angled toward the refrigerator when it hummed, then toward the ventilation system, cataloging every sound. I have come to return a debt, she said. I don't remember lending you money. In my culture, saving a life creates obligation beyond currency. The room suddenly felt smaller. I didn't save, I stopped. Her eyes held mine with calm certainty, no accusation, no drama, just fact. Outside, faint sirens wailed somewhere in the city, distant but approaching, probably unrelated, hopefully unrelated, almost certainly related. You should be aware, she added gently, that your authorities are searching for me. My laugh came out brittle. That seems like a them problem. She tilted her head, studying me with something that might have been sympathy. It will become a you problem shortly. Right on cue, my building's security system chirped an alert. Unidentified aerial units entering the district. I closed my eyes. Of course they are. When I opened them, she was still watching me, calm as a statue, a stolen fern wilting quietly in her lap. Do not be afraid, she said. I am here to protect you. That's comforting, I muttered. Historically, being protected by heavily armed strangers has worked out great for civilians. For the first time, she smiled, small, genuine, and unexpectedly warm. You are unusually calm, she noted. I'm not calm, I said. I've just run out of useful panic. The drones arrived first, because of course they did. They hovered outside my windows in a neat semicircle, red targeting grids crawling across the glass like digital ivy. My apartment lighting dimmed automatically, which felt less like a safety feature and more like the universe lowering the stage lights before a disaster. Remain inside, a mechanical voice boomed from somewhere above the building. You are harboring a classified extraterrestrial asset. I looked at her, she looked at me. The fern looked deceased. Asset, I repeated. That's rude. She stood, setting the plant aside with surprising care for someone about to face a small air force. The liquid metal armor flowed subtly as she moved, forming layered plates over her shoulders and throat. Her long ears angled forward, catching frequencies I couldn't hear. They will attempt capture first, she said calmly. Termination if unsuccessful. Good to know they're keeping options open. The front door exploded inward before I could consider better life choices. Not dramatically, just efficiently, hinges sheared by a focused breaching charge. Armed figures flooded the hallway, weapons humming with restrained energy. Behind them floated a taller shape, not human at all. A skeletal exosuit housing something luminous and indistinct, like starlight poured into a cage. My visitor stepped slightly in front of me, not theatrically, simply where she needed to be. Commander, the thing in the exosuit said, its voice layered as if several speakers disagreed on the pronunciation. Return voluntarily. Your absence destabilizes ongoing negotiations. So that was who she was. I was not informed negotiations included torture, she replied. A pause. Even the soldiers hesitated the way people do when someone says the quiet part out loud. You have made contact with a civilian, the entity continued. This complicates retrieval. I raised a hand weakly. High complication here. Her hand closed gently around my wrist, not restraining, just anchoring. Warm, steady. He is under my protection, she said. That is not recognized by any treaty. It will be. Something in her voice made the air feel heavier, like pressure before a storm. The armor brightened faintly, threads of pale light running through it like veins. I realized with distant clarity that she had never once raised her voice this entire time. She didn't need to. The exosuit tilted its head. You would escalate conflict over one individual. She glanced back at me, and for the first time there was something almost humanly uncertain in her expression. "Yes," she said simply. Silence stretched. Then, unexpectedly, the entity's posture shifted, less confrontational, more calculating. "Your actions will be noted," it said at last. "A diplomatic channel will be opened." The soldiers lowered their weapons by a fraction. The drones outside drifted upward, their targeting grids dissolving into harmless scanning patterns. Just like that, the apocalypse downgraded to paperwork. When they withdrew, the apartment looked exactly the same except for the missing door and the lingering smell of ionized air. I sagged against the wall, legs suddenly unreliable. "Well," I said, "that was deeply unpleasant." She turned to me, armor dimming until it looked almost like ordinary fabric again. Up close, she seemed less like a warrior and more like the woman in the chair I had once guarded, tired, composed, quietly determined. "You are safe," she said. "Statistically debatable, but I appreciate the effort." She studied me for a long moment. "You could have denied knowing me." "Probably," I admitted. "But then I'd have to live with myself. I've heard terrible reviews." Something eased in her posture, a tension unwinding that I hadn't noticed before. "Not victory relief. In my world," she said slowly, "mercy is often mistaken for weakness." "Yeah," I said, "we make that mistake here too." She extended her hand, formal, deliberate. Not a warrior's grip this time, a person's. "You changed the outcome of more than one life," she said. I took her hand. "You changed my rent situation. I'm pretty sure doors aren't covered." A soft laugh escaped her. Quiet, genuine, unmistakably human despite everything else. Outside, dawn was beginning to edge the sky with pale light. The drones were gone. The sirens had faded. For the first time in days, the world sounded ordinary. She released my hand but didn't step away. "What will you do now?" I asked. Her long ears tilted toward the brightening horizon, listening to something far beyond the city. "Stay," she said, "if you permit it." I looked at the shattered doorway, the ruined plant, the life I had before all this. Small, safe, predictable. Then I looked at her. "Yeah," I said, "I think I can make room." For once, the future didn't feel like a threat. It felt like an open door, one I had chosen to unlock myself.